Hey everybody, it's Sunday, April 13th, 2014. Hope you're having a great day. And today we're going to talk about the world of eyewear with Mark Craig. And before we get into it, some updates on my site over at Ball of Leather. I just got back from Singapore last week doing a visa run where my wallets were actually stuck in customs over a week. I was waiting for them to get in here while I was away. And it turns out I actually lost my wallet while I was in Singapore. So it's kind of funny that even though I sell wallets, I actually lose my own wallet. But what happened was that the wallets were stuck at customs here in Vietnam for a week coming from China, and what I tried to do was with my supplier is that we undeclared the amount of units in the box, hoping that I could pay a lower customs fee. But turns out they actually opened up both boxes and they actually manually counted how many wallets were in each box, and they made us resend the new invoice to all parties in Hong Kong, Vietnam, and China. It ended up being actually kind of a nightmare, actually. So the goods were actually here for like a week and a half. They've just been stuck at customs, going back and forth with all these things. And what I realized was that Vietnam is a big manufacturing base, so they're trying to keep imports out as much as possible because the government wants to protect the local industries here from outside imports. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but once it gets here on Monday, Tuesday, I'll include some photos once the wallets are up, because these are the actual wallets that people will be getting with the box, with the nice linen bag and everything packaged up as a hashtag baller wallet. So pretty excited, and let's get on with this week's episode. Don't deliver a product, deliver an experience. You're listening to the Build My Online Store podcast, and I'm your host, Terry Lin. We're here to talk about running an online store and building a strong e-commerce brand to take your online store to the next level. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check us out at buildmyonlinestore.com. Let's get on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Today I've got Mark Craig, co-founder of Activist Eyewear today, where we're going to talk about his business. So what's up, Mark?
What's up, man? Good to be with you.
Yeah, so real quick, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Mark Craig. I am one half of the team here at Activist Eyewear. I'm the creative director and lead designer and sort of creator of all things visual and 2D and 3D. And then my business partner, Anthony Codispoti, is more on the business development, sales, inventory management side of things. We started the business just over 5 years ago and have been just kind of bootstrapping our way up the ladder a little bit. So our team is starting to grow a little bit, but we're still basically at the core just a two-man operation.
All right, and I understand you guys make eyewear, so what makes you guys different in a nutshell?
I've been designing eyewear for 10, 11 years now. And in my early experience in the industry, I was working more in kind of like on mainstream fashion and sport brands. I really loved eyewear because it's as I was trained as an industrial designer, and eyewear is a very unique crossover from industrial design and fashion design. I was finding that there was just like a crazy amount of copying and duplication amongst different brands in the industry, and especially in the mainstream brands, but even in the higher end of the market, more of the boutique end, I think people do a better job of differentiating themselves. But there's still a lot of stuff that you can kind of just swap. You could swap the logos, and no one would ever really know the difference. So our product is special because we have a very unique combination of classic style and high performance. So you'll see shapes, silhouettes, colors, detailing, things like that are very like classically inspired but executed in a modern way, combined with very high performance features, which in particular, the thing that's probably most recognizable is our split fit temple technology. And it's basically just the side of the frame, it's called the temple, branches out from one into two behind the ear, two different branches. It's a way to just simply spread out the forces of the frame over a larger surface area of the head so that it creates a better grip for an active lifestyle. Hence, that's kind of what our name refers to, Activist Eyewear. And it's also more comfortable. I think we're sort of inspired by mashup culture in a lot of ways. I'm a kind of a music nut on the side. I think like the idea of bringing disparate elements together into something that really becomes integrated and interesting and new. In addition to the whole kind of like classic style and high performance combination, I think we also are doing, there's very much of like an old and new mashup, or maybe even a past and a future, depending on how you want to look at it. There's lots of like recognizable things in there. Some of the colors and the finishes, the proportions, the sizing, things like that are just kind of tweaked just enough one way or the other so that we kind of, we're freshening things up and not just copying, things from the past like so many other brands do.
It's interesting. If you look at some other product genres, there's a lot of kind of this retro thing going on in the past couple of years, kind of like with iPad cases, like the book binding style, or kind of people going old school with these stationary things like that. So yeah, I guess maybe it's kind of the hipster movement. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I don't live in the U.S. now, so it's kind of hard to put my hand on it. But just from looking online, you can kind of feel pulses here and there of the whole old school thing coming back.
In the men's sort of a higher end boutique men's fashion, there's a huge heritage movement that's been happening for the past few years. Kind of iconic brands, Levi's, Filson, different stuff like that, where they've never gone away, but they've kind of like had a real resurgence because people are really getting back into that design of the denim or the jacket or whatever that's been around since like the 1870s. It was designed for fishermen off the coast of Cape Cod, whatever. But like when there's a story to something, whether in that case it's like a historical story, there's like a provenance to the product, or in our case, just like a real sort of deep dive in terms of the design. You don't really get the entire thing in one glance. There's a sophisticated mix of elements. We put a huge amount of detail into the product, the packaging, the accessories. We have little Easter eggs kind of our logo and messages and things hidden around. And so it's like I think it's that experience that people have really showed a renewed interest in, or like a richer brand experience. So sometimes that's like kind of, it's pulling things from the past more directly, such as like an iPad case that looks like some old bound leather volume. But it's people are doing a lot of interesting things, and I think product design these days is actually at a pretty exciting point because people are really they're kind of pushing the envelope again.
You mentioned you started the business you've been in business for about 5 years. What was it like the first year? Did you guys test out the product? How did you guys get up and running like in the first few months?
It took us over a year and a half to bring our first styles to market, our first collection. Anthony and I met in basically the beginning of 2009 and started working then. And then because our concept was really pretty forward thinking, it wasn't something that was just going to happen overnight. So there was a lot of testing and experimentation and prototyping, and beyond just the design of the frames themselves, we looked at all the accessories, the case. Rather than doing like a lens cleaning cloth, like a microfiber cloth, we make a microfiber handkerchief, and we do a new pattern each season. And so now that's sort of like something we've sort of institutionalized, but figuring out how to execute that in the beginning and what each one of those individual stories was about, how it all fit together, the packaging, the brand, the website, everything. It was a pretty heavy lift. So we finally, starting in 2009, very beginning of 2009, we then finally launched our first collection in like August, September, October, or something like that. We did a couple shows. We're still kind of a baby brand in a lot of ways, even though we're increasingly grown up, I suppose. But even then, we only launched with 3 different styles in 3 to 4 colors each. So we had 10 SKUs in our first collection, which we were quite proud of. It was, really a hell of a lot of work to get that done and sort of give birth to this new concept. And people responded well to it. But one of the things we heard over and over was like, this is great. Where's the rest? We're like, what do you mean, man? This is the thing. And they're like, okay, well, this is really cool, but we need more selection. We launched with only sunglasses. So people were asking us, where's the optical styles as well? You put your clear lenses, clear prescription lenses in. That was a lesson, a pretty hard lesson we learned early on was, you kind of got to go big or go home in a sense, particularly with fashion. Like even if the buyers aren't going to buy every piece in your whole collection, just like anybody, when you go into a store, like you want to have a choice. And our buyers, buying for like small boutique eyewear shops all around the world, like it's still, I think, a consistent sentiment that you need to have a sufficient selection in terms of shapes, sizes, colors, materials, all that different stuff, because there really is no one size fits all, particularly in eyewear, because it's something that goes on the face. So it's so sensitive. The design is off by literally like tenths of a millimeter. It can really mean that it doesn't work, sometimes for anybody or at least for certain markets. So as we've kind of grown since then, like it's been really a matter of filling out the collection and trying to continue telling the same story but adding new chapters each time, each season. Fortunately, we were lucky in that the original story that we kind of came out with in fall 2010, like we have stuck to that, I think, very tightly. Like we've spun it off in different ways, but still it's like our core story is still there, and it's just been a matter of sort of fleshing it out more, and then obviously doing a better job of marketing the product and adding like a lot of visuals, not only photos of the product, but photos of models wearing the product and more lifestyle kind of things that are so important to you projecting the image that you want as a brand, but are really like, they're not easy things to do on their own.
Yeah, and were you guys still at day jobs starting this business, or were you guys completely bootstrapped by then?
We were both basically working independently. We didn't have like 9-to-5s. I still consult in eyewear for other high-end brands, mostly here and there, and stuff outside of eyewear too, packaging design, other things. Especially with a long development cycle like we had, like there's just no substitute to keeping the lights on. So we've both have had other irons in the fire, so to speak, to make it all work.
Yeah, awesome. And when you got your first sale, was it like a B2B wholesale order, or did you guys have an online store, or what was that first one like?
Actually, our very first sale was actually to my brother. We were launching on like a specific day, like our first stuff was going live on the website at, I don't know what it was, like let's say October 1st or something like that. And he texted me at like 6 a.m. that day, and he was like, "Are they live yet? Like, I want to be the first customer." And, we have not done, in terms of like e-commerce through the website and going direct to retail, there's a difficult relationship with e-commerce in our industry. Because especially the higher end of the market that we're in, the boutique shops really look to have something special that you can't get everywhere else. They respond to the limited edition story, they respond to our unique design and styling and all that kind of stuff. And to them, selling online is a little bit scary. We do sell online, especially in markets where we don't have retail stores, but we've had to really kind of walk a fine line promoting the customers, directing them towards the brick and mortar retailers, sometimes at the expense of our e-commerce business, just because that's really our bread and butter. That's where people are really going in, looking for something different. They want to discover something new. They're ready to plunk down like, hundreds of dollars to have something that not everybody else has. That has become much more of our focus. And so in that scenario, we are wholesaling to those stores, and we meet those people through various means, primarily through industry trade shows. That sort of, wholesaling structure is really where we have sort of found the sweetest spot so far. So it'll be interesting to see how the e-commerce continues to grow, if it continues to grow, or if, the business kind of shifts and our website becomes more about just like marketing and people learning about the product and then going to an actual retailer to buy it.
Yeah, because I think eyewear really defines someone's image they have, that they project to the world. And when you just look at it on a website and pictures, like, will it look as good on me as it does on this model? I mean, I don't know. I want to see it for myself.
I think it's a great point, actually. Like, eyewear is a tricky thing. It really is. It's tough to really know how it's going to look on you, on your face. And there are companies out there that they have like a try-on technology where it's like some sort of little plug-in app where you can turn on your webcam on your laptop. It'll show an image of your face on the screen, and then they overlay the frame onto your face. most of it is hilariously off base, in my opinion, because it's very difficult to control for the size of the frame. So if you're, depending on how close or how far away you're sitting from your webcam, the frame may look really giant or really, really tiny on your face. And there are people that are working to kind of get around that, but I still think that we're quite a ways away from being able to have that be a real viable substitute for actually going into a store where you actually have physical product to sit there and try it on. It's just, there's no substitute really.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And you said you were going through mostly wholesale channels now. So if you look at the pie of, say, your revenues, would it be like a 80-20, 50-50 breakdown of like wholesale and e-commerce, or what does it look like in general?
Probably more than 80-20, probably like 90-10, something like that. I mean, the wholesale stuff really dominates. We really have been focusing a lot of energy on the Eurozone and in Asia for our growth the past 2 years, basically. We started out focused on the U.S. and we moved then into overseas markets. As much as we may be like, sort of savvy guys and we can try to reach out to stores overseas and find interesting accounts that we think might be interested in our stuff, people still want to be sold to in their language. You want somebody that's going to come visit them in their store, a distributor or a sales rep or whatever, and kind of do it on their turf, on their terms. So there are companies out there that do kind of like more of a remote shipping kind of thing, shipping straight from the US into various countries. But we found that we can have a much stronger presence and much quicker growth in a new market if we find a distributor. They know the high end of the market. They've already got the network of stores that they're selling, let's say, a few other brands to. And so then they know how that market works, kind of what the ecosystem is. They can go to, like, let's say, the top 5 or 10 accounts around the country to start and say, hey, I've got something really special. You got to check this out. I'm not taking it to everybody. I want you to see it first. Would you be interested in starting to carry this line? We'll give you an exclusive in your city. So it's just, a smaller city. Maybe there's just one shop for the first year that's carrying our line. We partner with the store as a way to kind of break into the market for the first time, which makes them feel supported. It gets them, to push it in the stores when people come in more. They're active on social media. Hey, look at us. We've got something special nobody else has. It's like a great way to lay a foundation. But, to tap into that, to know who are those stores to start with in that new market. Like, we don't know what the market is in the Netherlands or whatever. It's like we really need some Dutch guy that's smart and savvy and knows that market, understands our product and how to kind of fit those puzzle pieces together. It's been like an ongoing puzzle to solve, to be honest. And even as we expand our footprint, like we're still, we learn new stuff every week and we tweak the model and the process so that we're always trying to get better and more efficient.
Yeah. So how do you measure, say, your brand building and marketing efforts when most of your sales is coming from B2B? Like, say you do like a Facebook campaign or a YouTube campaign, like you're driving people on to get them locally, right? But how do you measure that kind of on a analytics?
In terms of like the actual sales that come from certain marketing or that sort of thing?
Yeah, or just say you spend $10,000 this month on Facebook or whatever. Like, how do you figure out where that's coming from in sales, like at the end market?
That's something that we are continuing to figure out as we go on. I think that we have a lot to learn to continue tapping into that kind of stuff and really making it work for us even more. It's been a little bit of a tough nut to crack, again, because we're sort of like a two-man, the core team is a two-man operation, and we're trying to run this like multinational company essentially at this point. It's like sometimes you have to pick your battles. We're getting more sophisticated on that front, but actually I think that's that exact question of how do we measure, the things that we're doing, how do we measure what's working, what's not. That's exactly the question that we're going to start asking ourselves kind of now and going forward, and because we're really gearing up, I think, in social media in a new way that we haven't before.
Yeah, because I'm after this because all fashion brands are kind of very brand equity based, right? Like you build the story, this image around the brand. But the thing that kind of baffles me is that when you're building this online, but then all your sales is offline, it's like there's this disconnect that I guess it's kind of hard to figure it out.
Our website and our presence at the trade shows, we know for us, like, I think no detail is sort of too small to obsess about in a lot of ways. I have a very highly detailed, obsessive kind of approach to design, and not only do I try to make everything like really perfect and really try to break new ground in the designs and that sort of stuff, but I also look at every additional component of the accessories, the packaging, stuff that I was describing before, all of the marketing, every part of our website. It's all got to be speaking the same language. Some of that is to the means to an end as far as sales online, but a lot of it has to do with pushing our image out into the world in a way that not only the customers can see and respond to, but we give our distribution partners and our sales representatives overseas the tools to they can look at our website and say, oh, right, like, okay, here's the language I can use, to sell people on our sunglass lens technology or the split fit temple technology. So I think it's sort of like we're actually speaking to different tiers of people in our network, not only the very end customer, but the retail stores, up a link on the chain, also the distributors up a link on the chain, and so forth, so that it's all kind of, everybody's sort of got the same story.
Yeah. And so when you're trying to talk to distributors, how do you balance the exclusivity kind of thing you're giving them and also sales growth? Because obviously you can't just go into a whole city and offer it to 50 people, right? Because then it kind of gets commoditized. So how do you balance that in growing the business?
That's a really good question. I think that, as I mentioned before, we try to seed the brand in the right way. First stage is choosing the right distribution partners and finding, that's like a sort of like a whole labyrinth of networking and conversations to have. That's something that my business partner, Anthony, is just like amazing at, is getting at, it's like, oh, we need distribution in Southern Europe. Okay, so let me get out there. Let me get on LinkedIn. Let me get on the phone, send up smoke signals, send out the fighter jets, whatever. Try to find those partners. So it's like finding the people that they get what we're doing and they're excited about it. That's like the first step. And then having those people that are knowledgeable about their market. Let's say we've met a distributor and they're like, oh yeah, we love what you're doing. And, we're carrying these other brands and they're selling for $49.99 retail. Like, that doesn't make sense for you to then start carrying our brand, because our stuff, it starts at $325 US and goes up to almost $500 US. And, we're projecting this whole exclusive story and that sort of thing. It's like, that it's clearly not the right fit. Getting those right distribution partners that are knowledgeable about our segment of the market and that our story truly resonates with them, that's kind of that next stage. And then really going to, seeding the brand with the right stores in the right cities and the right neighborhoods, all that sort of thing. You sort of have to take a little bit of a longer term view of it, because if you do it the right way and kind of get into those what are sort of referred to as like the tastemaker accounts to start with, then you get into that one store that all the other sort of second tier stores are looking at, and once they want to carry what that top tier store carries, then suddenly, like, right, if you market to that one store and build a good partnership with them to start with, then suddenly, rather than having to go after some of those A- stores, they look at the A+ store and say, oh, they've got activist eyewear. That must be something that's worth looking at. Then they start to come to us. You lay sort of the foundation of that structure in the right way, and it becomes like something that propagates itself over time. It doesn't happen overnight, certainly, but it's been proven to us in some of the markets where we're strongest that that sort of strategy works. And so we're definitely, it's something that we deploy in various permutations in pretty much every new market that we open up going forward.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just looking at your store now. Your glasses, one of them, I think the Yukon one, is like $475. So has it been challenging to kind of communicate the value of the product online versus offline?
The price is not for everybody, but at the same time, like we produce everything that we make. We produce in Japan. We make it all in limited edition, leave no stone unturned in terms of ways to maximize the quality and refine the designs and that kind of stuff. And the one you're seeing there is actually a design that we're just launching now this spring. There are people that get turned off by a higher price tag from day one. Those just aren't our customers. And that's why we don't sell to like bigger box chains where people are, nobody's looking to like throw away their money, but people that go into the higher end boutique optical shops that, again, like that's really our core retail channel. They're going in there with their credit card is warmed up or their pockets bulging and they're ready to spend money. But what they want is something that has the appropriate value for them. So that's when suddenly when we've communicated, we've taught the store the story and explained to them, well, check out this, like look at this quality, feel this, like when you put it on, feel how great it is, look at the lens, all these different details that they can then turn around and in an excited manner explain why our stuff is so great to the customer. Then that's what drives the sales all the way through to the end, because we really do have a unique combination of elements in terms of our designs. We're lucky in that we have our unique kind of design language is something that, again, it's not only is the price not for everybody, but our designs are not for everybody, and that's exactly what we want. We're making stuff that's for the individual. It's marked with a serial number, so you get to see you have literally one of only 347 pieces of this design that will ever be made. And besides that, it's like, the styling is forward thinking, the technologies, the split temple, all that sort of stuff. It is very, very much for our products are designed for somebody that is looking, they're a more forward thinking person themselves, and they're looking for something unique that not everybody else has.
Like if you dig deeper into it, like someone who can afford $500 glasses probably has to be making 200,000 plus a year, right? And I think when you dig into the psychographics, they're looking to buy stuff that makes them stand out from the guy that buys at Old Navy or kind of your college frat guy, right? And I think ultimately it comes down to a reflection on themselves, and they're not buying it for the price, they're buying it for the image that they're different than anyone else. And it's making that statement to the world that, hey, I have these glasses that are different, made in Japan, serial numbered on it, and like boom, this makes me special, basically.
Absolutely. No, I think that's the right way to say it. That's also where like the brand, kind of the equity of the brand comes in as well. It's like, okay, we've got these detail. The product is physically well made. It's beautiful. It's detailed. There's like these, the serial number markings, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, okay, that gets people going. But then it's like the whole kind of lifestyle image that you're projecting. Then the customer looks at that and says, oh, that's something that I want to aspire to. I want to travel the world. I want to be an explorer. Lead kind of like an active lifestyle where I'm like, I'm living in cities, I'm climbing mountains, I'm pushing the boundaries of my life. Like that's the kind of stuff that we really also want to communicate to people, because we look at our products as gear in a lot of ways. It's kind of same as like mountain climbing gear in some sense. It's more fashion based, of course, but we want to equip people with a product that really functions really well. Like it fits really well. It's very lightweight. The opticians, they can adjust it. So it's customized to the wearer's head. And then it fits into that lifestyle that they aspire to lead, whether to what extent they actually do lead that lifestyle or not, like, that's up to them, obviously. But if you don this frame, this jacket, whatever, that makes you feel a certain way, like that's a very transformative thing. And it's something that people are willing to spend money on. One of the biggest challenges for us is as we grow is really, not losing sight of that exclusivity and the lifestyle component, so that we continue to grow, but don't get ahead of ourselves, because at some point, I think you start alienating those people that really want that smaller, kind of more niche thing that not everybody knows about. So it's for us, it'll be kind of riding that line between maximizing growth, but kind of still keeping it cool and hip and exclusive.
Yeah, it reminds me of the magazine Monocle. It's kind of like the guys you guys are going
Yeah,
after.
right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
It's great. That's a great match.
Because I think guys that can buy things at these price point, I mean, they can certainly go to Louis Vuitton or Ferragamo, but anyone else can do that too. So it's kind of like this exclusivity thing you're going after.
And a lot of those brands, it's so like logo driven, and it's like I think at this point, like that luxury lifestyle. Look, those guys, like a lot of those brands have been around for 100 years, and God bless them. Like they're just like juggernauts. But that's the part of the industry, at least in eyewear, that is just like people are just copying each other left and right, copies of copies of copies. And it's like how I can, my logo is bigger than yours. Oh yeah, well now mine's bigger. And it's kind of like this like arms race where it's like, guys, like what? You're not really providing value for the customer, in my opinion. Like if my LV for Louis Vuitton is bigger than your G for Gucci, then it's sort of like, so what? What we're really trying to do is innovate both in like a product and sort of technology way, but also create something that, like a product that it's cool because it's not everywhere and because it's like a new idea that's kind of like a little shocking when you look at it at first. But then as you kind of wrap your mind around it a little bit more, you're like, wow, like this really is, it's like that band that the first time you hear them, you're like, whoa, like what the hell is this that these guys are doing? They're mashing up jazz and funk and rap and whatever. It's confusing at first because it's truly breaking new ground. But after a while, you're like, oh my God, like it's just, there's something new to discover. Kind of the longer you look at it, the longer you listen to it. And that's really like helps people to be invested and really fall in love.
Yeah, like the whole big box luxury brand thing, it just screams amateur hour.
To an extent. And I mean, listen, there's value in that for some people. And, a lot of people vote with a lot of dollars that stuff still has value. We're not about that. From day one, we really actively have chosen a different path. And, we look at a lot of the brands, the eyewear brands out there that we admire most. They have like sort of a richness to their designs, their branding, all that kind of stuff. That's just like, it's taking a different path that is, I think, in the end, actually gives the consumer a lot more true value rather than more of like a fleeting value of, this logo or that logo.
Yeah, so you mentioned, starting out from day one, this is what you guys stood for. But at the same time, you guys are kind of going the exclusive kind of boutique high-end route. So how did you find the early customers starting out? Because certainly you can't just go to your family and friends since, not everyone might be the right customer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was very much going to the industry trade shows, as I mentioned before, and kind of just like getting out there and talking to people, and it's like you get a few stores to sign up at first, and then other people you talk to and they're interested in it, but they kind of need a little more time to wrap their mind around it. So there's relationship building that goes on and so on and so forth. Like I said, I use a term like a baby brand before. Like we're still, very much a small startup company in so many ways, and we're finding certain things that work, and some of the earliest stores that we've been working with for a few years now, like they are, really, we've continued to build a relationship with them, and we can point to those early relationships to new stores that we meet and say like, hey, what we're doing is not like anything else that you have, but here's what's worked for us in the past with these other stores, and let's try this together. Let's partner with you. Help us, like let us help you. And let us give you the tools and that sort of thing to help you tell our story, because we know people respond to it if it's told in the right way and if it's presented in the right way. We think of each one of our distributors as partners. We think of each one of our stores as a partner. Anthony and I really try to have a direct dialogue with everybody as much as possible, whether that's going through the distributors to speak directly to the stores, whether that's going through the stores to speak directly to the end consumer. Customer service, I think, is a huge part of it, making everybody feel like they're being heard, both for what's working and what's not. and responding to the concerns, like that's a huge deal. And when problems once in a while do arise, if you can respond to that in a constructive way and say like, oh, hey, customer A, customer X, like you're not happy with this product. Okay, tell us what you would be happy with. How can we help you to have like a great experience with our brand and our product, whether that's the store, the end consumer, the distributor, whatever. Then people are like, wow, like they kind of went the extra mile to really make me happy and to satisfy me. I'm sold. Like it's kind of customer for life kind of thing. If we sell the customer in the right way and they walk out of the store wearing their frame and they're like, damn, like this is great, I want to go tell my friends about this. And then they go to the bar, to the restaurant, to the park, whatever, and they're showing their friends, check this out, man. Like, look, the serial number, yada, yada. And then they become, something we refer to as kind of like a brand ambassador, and they are excited about the product. It works well for them. They love the experience of wearing our products. And so then they tell their friends, and it becomes, again, it's very like kind of grassrootsy type of an approach. But if it's done right, then they continue selling the products in their daily lives because they share the story and they wear it and people see it and they want that too.
Yeah, awesome. All right. And so, looking forward, what do you see as a big challenge growing the business, 2014 and beyond?
We have so much momentum right now. I think it's just keeping the growth steady, really, taking the new distribution partners that we've gotten in recent months and years and continuing to build on each relationship, an aggressive but a measured way. As we continue to expand the collection, as we sell out of existing styles, is like evolving the sort of design language, but the overall collection in a way that is responding to what's working, what's selling well, what people are really saying, God, we really love this, and avoiding mistakes that we've made in the past of, well, here's like a design that we were super pumped about when we first brought it out, and the market hasn't really responded to it, and so really looking at those, looking at sales data, listening to the stores, the distributors, what's working and what's not, and trying to respond to that in a way that really lets us grow the collection and grow the brand in smart a way as possible and as targeted a way as possible.
Awesome. And in the eyewear industry, is wholesale generally like 50% off retail like most other places, or is there like a different dynamic?
It's similar. The markup can sometimes be a little bit more. We're finding that there's slightly different formulas in different markets. How can we structure this so that it's sort of everybody wins and everybody's making their margin to keep their business healthy and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and so just to wrap things up a bit, was there like a big mistake you guys made starting out that you think other people should avoid?
Probably the biggest one was something I mentioned earlier in the conversation was, we didn't realize how big of a mistake we were making by not launching like a larger collection to start with. We invested a huge amount of time and money in our first few designs, and we stunted our growth very early on because we just didn't have enough of a selection, and also because in our industry, like, sunglasses, which we launched with sunglasses only to start with, but sunglasses are a seasonal item. They sell primarily in the spring and the summer, and then sales really slow down for sun in fall and the winter. Not that it stops entirely, but it definitely slows down. Whereas eyeglasses with corrective lenses are something that really sells year round. Sunglasses are somewhat more of an elective type of purchase, whereas eyeglasses, like, people literally need, it's like they can't get through their day without their frames so they can actually see the road while they're driving or see the computer screen or whatever. We had to make a pretty big course correction with that, and we quadrupled the size of our collection in one shot in spring 2012, I think it was. And that was when we really kind of finally got the engine revved up a little bit more. We didn't do our homework enough, I guess, and we didn't realize how important that was to have that additional selection and to have the two segments, both sunglasses and optical glasses. And, if we could go back and do it all over again, we certainly would have geared up more from the get-go.
But also starting out, you're always afraid that if I make too many designs, they won't sell too, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's a huge catch-22. We're a self-funded operation. We drained our savings accounts to launch the company. It's scary as hell. You think like, wow, like we'll just do a little bit and we'll see how it works, and we'll do a little bit more and we'll respond to that and so on and so forth. And you'd be idiots if you didn't, if you weren't careful. But at the same time, you just have to know that you're not also being undercapitalized, both in terms of your actual, like how much money you have in the bank to invest and keep the company going once it's up and running. And also, the selection in your collection for something like eyewear and in the fashion world, like I said, you just have to have a certain amount of diversity in your collection in order for people to really take you seriously. So it's like it's tough. You got it riding that line between like offering like enough selection while not just breaking the bank. It's tough.
Yeah, there's a stand-up comedian I follow, and he has a saying where nothing big happens until you put your balls on the line. So
right, it's very true. Yeah. We've had our balls hanging out the window of the car for a while now, and it's driving 90 miles an hour trying to change the flat. It's like
yeah, it's like sometimes when I don't get sales, I get really depressed. But then I wake up 4 a.m. I get a sale. Like I just wake up and I start working.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So last question.
Yes.
Just to wrap things up, where can we find you guys online?
ActivistEyewear.com. That's our core online presence. We've got a lot of exciting things coming in 2014 and beyond, so stay tuned.
Awesome. All right, Mark, thanks again so much for your time, and we'll keep in touch when this goes live.
Great. Thanks so much, Terry.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Build My Online Store podcast. If you want the show notes, make sure to check out the website at buildmyonlinestore.com. And if you got an e-commerce store, every 2 weeks I lead a live mastermind call with about 5 or 6 of the listeners in 2 separate groups where we work openly together and solve a business problem that you have. And we're all there to support each other. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, make sure to check us out at buildmyonlinestore.com/mastermind. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch up with you guys next week.